Okay, I'm going to try to explain how I painted this background, assuming I can remember how I did it. I'm pretty sure I remember how. So the issue that we run into is right here where the orangey pink and the blue and purple are starting to meet each other. The reason for that is because we start with blue up here in the sky and we end with orange down here. And blue and orange are opposites on the color wheel, and any colors that are opposites on the color wheel are going to make brown. So you're going to get a muddy color right around here without some finagling. So I try to give plenty of room in this area to blend so that we don't get mud. Now I will say, as a reminder, there's going to be a tree in front of this, so you're not going to see a lot of it. So if you have painted the sky and you see these funky transitions that aren't the best, then just make your tree bigger and make these cover the parts that you don't like. So, you know, you don't have to fuss with it too much, but let's just see what I can do to show it to you, and hopefully this won't be a super long video. I have never videoed anything before. I do not have a video set up. The lighting in here is terrible, but we're just going to go with it. So here's my palette of paints. These are the colors that I used, which I had already explained, so I won't re-explain it. So I'm just going to try to forget you're here and start painting and explain as I go. I did forget to draw the water line, which would be, you know, about there. So we're just going to pretend there's a line there. Okay. So I start with the darkest blue up here, and I'm just doing these little brush strokes. I'm not doing that. That is one way you can do it. That's just not the way I do it. My way isn't the only way. People can do what they want to do, but these little brush strokes seem to make it easier to blend. I also don't go on super thick with my paint because I'm going to go over it in layers. I'm dipping this in water, so I'm getting that a little bit thinner and wetter. I don't know why. Why am I doing that? I think it's because it softens that edge. I'm blotting my brush now before I grab the next blue, and it makes that easier to start blending in. Now you're going to see I'm blotting my brush again because it's got a lot of that dark blue on it, so I can put just the light blue on it. You're going to see a lot of my brush strokes here because right now I'm just trying to mix colors. I'm not really worried about my texture right at this exact moment. Okay, now I'm going to start to add a little purple. Purple's going to be fine. I'm blotting my brush on my paper towel so that most of that blue is off of it. Yep, you can see what I'm doing. Good. Okay, and I'm grabbing this purple. I don't remember what purple Heidi uses, but what I had on hand was DecoArt lavender. So that's what this is. And I'm just patting color in here and letting it overlap. I'm getting a lot of purple up into my blue. You don't have to do it that way. It's just the way it seems to be turning out right this exact second. You can do it however you want. If you want more blue, you can have it be more blue. I'm a little nervous because I'm getting a lot of blue mixed into my purple here, and I'm afraid that's going to make some mud, but let's just go with it, see what happens. I'm blotting my brush on my paper towel again because I'm going to put in a little bit more of this dark blue. Just so it's not quite so purple. I almost don't need two blues. I just liked that darker ultramarine, like it's nighttime. Now, some people like this brush strokey look, you know, you could leave that as a painterly kind of look. Mine looks a lot smoother because I went over it like 3 times. And each time you go over it after it's dry, it covers up previous. Now I want to start to go into the pink, and this is a very orangey pink. So I'm going to take the purple and the pink and mix it a little bit on my palette so I have a purpley pink to help that transition. I don't know if that's necessary, but that is what my brain's telling me to do. And here, see how this pink's a little bit muddy. That's okay, because we're about to get super bright. And the tap, tap, tapping here is blending things nicely. Tap, 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 tap. And, you know, if you leave it looking brush strokey like this, it kind of looks painterly, so that's fine. That's fine too. Now I'm going to mix some of this neon pink, which is DecoArt Black Light Neon, because I just happen to have it and I wanted things bright, and I'm mixing that with my dragon fruit because we're going to start getting brighter. I always have a paper towel on hand because if I end up picking up dark color on my paintbrush when I'm trying to go lighter, I'll blot it to get some of that off. I don't want to clean it because I don't want to introduce a bunch of water here. I just don't want it depositing quite so much darker into my nice bright pink. Now this pink is nice and bright because it's got the weight of the canvas showing through it. And if I muddy that up with those colors, it won't be nice and bright anymore. But I'm just mixing this here, like I mixed those two and did that, and then I'm mixing these two, and there was still a little bit of purple on my brush, so it's just kind of all mingled together, and I'm just dabbing it. When I go over it a second time, you can use smoother scrubbing strokes to kind of even out those brush strokes if you don't like that painterly look. I want things to start getting bright, and we're thinking about orange now. So this is that Master's Touch. They call it fluorescent pink, but it's very red to me. I am starting to mix that in now, right there. And we're going to start going orange because our horizon line ends here. And there's going to be that big sun, which I'm not painting. I'm just going to do a sky. So we want lots of room. Are we still recording? We are. Good. Okay. Sorry, I've never done this. All right. And there's a little mud in there, so I'm going to blot my brush. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and swish out my brush, because there's a lot of built-in blue in my bristles. I want to get rid of that. There. Now it's mostly gone. So now I'm going to load this up because I don't want this getting tainted with that blue. And making mud. And I'm barely going over what I did before. And I'm just kind of tap, 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 tapping, tap, tap, tap. You're kind of just tickling the canvas a little bit. Doot, 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 doot. You can even make that noise. Doot, 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 doot. Okay. Okay. And now I'm going to use kind of that pure reddish color, neon-y red, without the pink. Because I'm going to start going into orange. And this orange flame color that she uses is actually a pretty dull orange. It's not my favorite, but it works fine. It's fine. We're going to take some of that orange, mix it in that red, because we're about to transition down to orange. And then just orange, which you can see is kind of dull. So I think maybe, I don't think I used straight orange now that I'm looking at it. I think I went ahead and grabbed the yellow and mixed that orange with some yellow because it looked kind of dull. And I'm kind of wondering if you even need orange. I don't know. You might even be able to just go down to into yellow. I don't know. But there's a little orange in there. And this leading edge transition line, they stay damp for a while. So you can go back in and fuss with it a little bit, but just don't over fuss it, because you don't want things blending too much. When things start to dry, when you go back over and start doing this, then it kind of changes the texture. It's better to just let it dry before you go fuss with it some more. Now I'm getting down to where I want my sky to be yellow, so I'm gonna clean up my brush, because there was a lot of different colors on that brush, and grab just yellow. See how nice and bright that is? And I'm each layer I start on the white of the canvas and go up and just sort of tap, 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 tap into the previous color. Start on the canvas, the white part, and go up. And I think I'll grab a little white, which I have no idea where. Oh, here it is. Alright, a little bit of white with that yellow to make a lighter part. A little bit of it lighter. And let's just say the line was maybe there. Something like that. I almost could have just grabbed white alone and mixed it into the yellow on my canvas. Okay. I don't think that's straight, but my easel's at an angle in order for you to be watching with me, so we're just going to pretend that's a straight line, because it doesn't matter. We're looking at blending right now. So that's not bad as it is. You know, you can do it this way if you want to. I like it this way because I don't know, it just mixes it up better. So I'm going to blow dry this for a second. I apologize for the noise. I'm hoping I can dry this enough to show you what happens when I add another layer. DecoArt really doesn't take long to dry, so this will just take a minute. If I was more video savvy, I would have cut that out, but I'm not. So now what I would do in the class is I would be working on the water now while that dried, because by the time I was done with that first layer of water, that was dry for a next step. And that feels pretty dry. I'm hoping it works. I forgot to show you the brush that I'm using. I bought a pack of very cheap brushes off of Amazon because I was having this big class, and it was 20 packs of brushes for, I forget, not very much money. And I've been painting all my paintings with these cheap brushes to see if they can be used, and so far so good. I like to use a filbert because I feel like flat brushes like this, they leave these squares when you're trying to blend, and I don't like that. This, you can still see strokes, but that rounded edge, just things blend better. So I am just personally would like to go over this one more time, a little bit more watered down, I think. I don't remember. Let me start doing it so I can remember what I did. Yeah, so my brush is a little more watery. It's a little more inky because this is going to start covering up some of those brush strokes. And it doesn't take much of this darker color to affect and taint the colors under it, so I'm being very careful about how far down I go. I'm not going down very far because the sun's setting, so there's still the sun is setting, which means the dark sky is coming out, but we're looking at the sunset, so there's just a little bit. Now I'm gonna clean that a little bit, blot it, and grab that next color, the blue color. For me, it was blue raspberry. That's what I had. I don't think that's what she used. And I'm again tapping, but it's just looking a little bit more blended. It's not quite as brush strokey. I'm tapping it just very gently, very, very gently. Not like this, but just like that. Now I'm going into that purple, and I'm going to take a little blue, a little purple, and make a bluish purple to kind of ease that step down. This is where you could even make clouds if you wanted to. I think I did that on my third layer. I don't even know if this needs a third layer. That kind of looks like a cloud there. I'm gonna leave it. This is where you're running into trouble right here. This purple is gonna go down into this pink and make it muddy. So I'm gonna grab some of the pink, even some of the bright pink, why not, and the purple. And tap, 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 tap. A little bit waterier. I'm getting paint on my easel. That's okay. And that just, see, that just went up into my purple a little bit. That's okay. It kind of looks like a cloud. I'm I'm just being really careful with this spot because this is the spot we're going to make mud if we're not careful. I'm going to try to go all pink now. And I really think the neon is what helps in this process. The neon pink. And I'm getting, right here, I'm getting purple down into my orange because it's in my brush. I'm going to drag it up on this paper towel. Blend that out a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. I don't like that. I wish I hadn't done that, but that's okay because we're just gonna kind of go over that a little bit. Now, there's still texture here, but instead of looking like flat out brush strokes like somebody was, you know, doing what we were doing, now it's looking more like texture. Like painterly texture, like unpredictable painterly texture that your brain stops seeing as brushstrokes and starts seeing as sky. And now just the pure orange, sorry, the pure neon red. Grabbing a little orange in my neon red because we're going to start going down into orange. And I'm touching this ever so lightly. Ever so lightly. Oops, there's still purple and blue on my brush. Well, kind of looks like a cloud. It's okay. I feel like I'm a little dirty. I'm going to wash that. And with my clean brush, spread that out a little bit. Scrub it a little bit. Scrub. With my water. Spread it out. Let me try just grabbing yellow with the neon orange. Or neon red. I wonder what that'll do. Nope. I was wrong. We do need that orange flame just a tad. I'm cleaning up my brush because I've got too much orange on it and I'm going down into that yellow. And I just grabbed pure yellow and I'm doing this to kind of spread out that orange that had been coming down there. More just yellow. And now just some of that white. I'm even starting to do almost little circular motions because it kind of looks like clouds when I don't blend it all the way. My first painting, I actually, on my third layer, that's the only reason why I did a third layer, is because I had realized that some of that scrubbing looks like clouds, and so I went over it like that. So there's the third layer. It's very straight, which is fine. Sometimes I like to go that way instead because it feels like it's going off into the distance. We could leave that. We could leave that just like that because it's nicely blended. There's some great texture there, but it's not full-on brush strokey. I think the trick is that I'm just using these really small tapping strokes, kind of all in all directions, not just, you know, and not long ones. I'm just, you know, like tickling. Tickle, tickle, tickle. And the second layer is kind of what hides the strokes that don't look like texture, the distracting looking strokes. You could leave it like this. I could end the video right now, but I'm tempted to go ahead and blow dry this one more time and see if I can kind of add the cloud effects like I did with my first one, as kind of a level up if you want that extra challenge, assuming I remember how I did it. So let me do this real quick. Okay, so basically wherever I wanted a cloud, I chose the previous color and did some scrubbing up in that area. So like if I wanted to do a kind of just a suggestion of a cloud right here, I'd pick up yellow, and I kind of want it watery, because we're not doing super fine art here. We're just doing a little suggestion of cloud. So it's, I gotta put my glasses on. I can't see what I'm doing. Is there blue in that? No. No, that's okay. Except my paint's starting to dry out. Okay, a little bit watery. That was too watery. I don't know. Let's see what happens. And just like scrub, 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 scrub. Clean my brush, blot it dry, and then fade out that area. That's how I did it. My paint was a little too watery. I need to sit down. I think that's part of my problem. Yeah. There. And then fade out the bottom. The bottom part fades out. So that's one little bit of a suggestion of cloud, and maybe if you wanted another one up higher, grab some of that pink, the bright pink mixed with the dragon fruit. My paint's gummy. I think that's part of my problem here, is I put paint on my palette too soon. I wasn't ready with my setup, and now it's kind of gummy, and it's gonna make chunkies on my painting. But let's see what I can do. Scrub, 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 scrub. Scrub, 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 scrub. Clean, blot, fade out. You want the top of the cloud to be like pure paint, and the bottom to fade out. And this might be a way to hide some of the transitions you don't like. This would be easier if my paint wasn't all gummy. Fading in that top part more than I intended to. Because my paint is just too gummy to do this, so. But it still looks good. Maybe even add just a tiny bit of white to make it opaquer. Opaquer, I don't know if that's a word. More opaque. And I turned it on its side like this, not like this. That's what I just started doing right here. That looks a little bit more cloud-like because it's lighter than the layer under it. And then smooth out the bottom there. It's got to be puffy here and blended right there. I'm afraid to touch it anymore. This is not normally how I would leave this, but I don't want to ruin it trying to show you how to do this. Plus, remember, there's going to be a tree here. So we don't need to fuss with the sky too much. I guess I'm just fussing with it because you could do this technique on a different painting where there isn't a tree. I just I grabbed a tiny little bit of white with my pink. That's why it looks like that. I'm blending out the bottom by tapping it. And now we've got a little cloud right there. And since there's going to be a tree right there, I'm just going to say it's done. So I think that's good. So little taps, little scrubs. I hope this was detailed enough. If it's not, if I did something and you don't know what I just did, let me know, and I will answer any other questions that you might have. Happy painting!